Hello. Today I'm coming to you from the middle of the woods in one of my very favorite places in the world, in Washington State, with my very favorite sidekick in the world, Bella the dog, to talk to you about some of my very favorite kitchen tools under 40 bucks that will make great gifts this holiday season. If you have a bigger budget, there's a couple wild cards in there that are over $40 as well. I'm someone that cooks all the time, so everything that I'm recommending to you today is a tool that I have in my kitchen that I use frequently, and frankly I've probably abused a little bit too. So these tools are things that you can trust, that will stand up to heavy use, and that for any chef, home chef, or burgeoning chef would be great additions to their toolbox in their kitchen. Got several categories for you today, all the way from kitchen helpers to foundational gifts to cookbooks, and even for the more adventurous among us, some outdoor cooking supplies. Here are 20 of my favorite kitchen tools that would make great gifts that are all under $40. The first category for you today is the foundation category. Any chef, home chef, new chef deserves a quality knife. So for me, that doesn't mean it has to be a super expensive knife. It means that it's weighted well, it feels good in my hands, it keeps an edge, relatively low maintenance, and something that I'm comfortable using. So I'm showing you two different knives today, one at a lower price point that hits our under $40 price point, and another knife that's a little bit more expensive, just over $100, but really a high quality, wonderful knife. So this Amarku 7-inch Santoku knife is my most used knife in my kitchen. I find that it works really nice for a hand that's a little bit smaller, like mine. It's weighted really well, it keeps an edge beautifully, and it's a price point that I don't have to worry too much about. This Wusthof knife is a little bit smaller, coming in at 5 inches, and still not a top-of-the-line knife, but a really nice knife that's kind of mid-price to add to your collection. It's a little bit heavier, definitely a higher quality knife, but frankly, I find myself reaching for the 7-inch more frequently than the Wusthof. The wild card in this category is a knife sharpener. I'm sure we all have the honing steels that come with all of our knife kits. If you've bought a knife block at any point in time, it's that thing that basically just looks like a handle with a piece of steel on the end. That is great for honing a knife, which means keeping the edge straight, but you'll still probably at some point need to sharpen your knives. And this hone kit that I'm showing you is a great knife sharpening option. This kit runs just over $100, really user-friendly, super easy to use. Two parts. One is the main base that sets the angle of the sharpen and has a magnetic piece that your knife sticks to. And the second is a roller with two different sharpening discs that you can switch out. This is something that is super easy, takes like 20 seconds per knife, doesn't take up much space in your kitchen, and is a great addition if you've got a little bit more of a budget to keep those new knives sharp. Next category of gifts is what I'm calling look good, feel good, though to be honest with you, I've never found an apron that is actually all that flattering. But what these two aprons lack in flatteringness, they sure do make up for in utility. I'm showing you two different options for aprons today, one that's under 20 bucks and one that is significantly nicer quality, more of a name brand apron that's a wild card, so it's just under 100 bucks. Both of them are smock style, which for me is the most comfortable, and I'm recommending them to you because I've put them through the wash a million times. They hold up well, they protect my clothes, and they come in all sorts of beautiful patterns and colors. This first Amazon special apron is a little bit thinner material, has fewer bells and whistles, and you frankly don't even need to tie it in the back. It's got one main pocket up front, and it comes in tons of colors. And then the Hedley and Bennett apron, which is this green striped apron, is a higher quality apron for sure. More bells and whistles, a place for your pen or spoons, a large lap pocket, a place for your kitchen towel, thicker straps, which are a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more roomy, and it's made of a more resilient kind of canvasy cotton type of material. Love both of these aprons and would highly recommend them both, but can absolutely stand behind the less expensive Amazon version as a really great option. Category number 3, I'm calling the kitchen helper category. These gifts range in price from $7 to about $22, and we'll start with the least expensive and move to the most. First thing is this pack of cheesecloth. Cheesecloth has so many uses in your kitchen. It's great for straining out stocks and broths, great for getting the liquid out of veggies. It works to infuse things like tea or spice sachets. And of course it works for its named purpose, which is making cheese. Takes a very little space, really inexpensive, multitude of uses, great to stash in your drawer with your kitchen towels. Next is a bench scraper. The bench scraper I'm showing you here is about 10 bucks. They're useful for cutting pastry. They're useful for incorporating doughs together. I like this one that has sides because I use it to transport big piles of vegetables into a bowl, or the risky maneuver from my bench into my stove. All sorts of uses for this bench scraper. I find new ones by the day, and I've had this one for probably 10 years. So really inexpensive gift that will last the cook in your life forever. Next up, this silicone pastry brush is something that I use frequently when I'm baking, but also all the time when I'm cooking, working with meat, putting glazes on things, egg washing things. I like the silicone version and this one with the little bristles because it cleans up really easily. I just toss it into the dishwasher. I've had this one again for ages. They'll last you for a really long time, and for just a couple bucks, it makes a great gift. Next up is a microplane, and I would say for any chef that doesn't have a microplane, this might be on the very top of my list after a quality knife. Microplane is good for grating nutmeg, for grating any type of citrus. If you need a small grate on cheese, it works really well for that, for ginger. Fun fact about microplanes, they were originally woodworking tools called rasps, meant to shave off little bits of wood, and they do the exact same thing to vegetables or fruits or frankly whatever you want to use in your kitchen. Second to last in this category is a spider. A spider is this long-handled spoon-looking thing, and while mine is all one piece, you absolutely can find basket-style spiders that are made of some sort of handle, oftentimes bamboo, with wire baskets. This is great for making pasta, for deep frying things. You can use it in a pinch as a strainer. This is one that does take up a little bit more room in your kitchen. You've got to find a place to store it, but lots of uses for this spider. And finally, in the kitchen helper category is 2 for 1. You can get 2 gifts out of this one set of salt pigs. So this contraption is called a salt pig. The biggest benefit to a salt pig is the easy access to salt. You can fit your whole hand in this thing. While it comes with a tiny little spoon, which I use sometimes, I keep a salt pig on hand right by my salt and pepper grinders for those times that I'm right in the middle of cooking and I just want to grab a big pinch of salt. So in this kit for right around 20 bucks, you get 2 of these with 2 little spoons. Had this one for ages. It sits right on my shelf, works exactly as advertised, and will make any chef's cooking time a little bit more efficient. On to the next category, which I'm calling tiny appliances. I am actually not a huge fan of kitchen appliances because I find many of them are good for one thing and one thing only. But the 3 I have for you today are workhorses in the kitchen. First tool in this category is an instant read thermometer, and I really like this brand Thermapen. I've had this one that I'm showing you for a few years at least. It stays calibrated well. It has a fold out temperature probe so you can fold it back in and both store it easily but also protect it. It's actually magnetic and it just works as advertised. The next tiny appliance is just under 30 bucks and it's a kitchen scale. For someone who's getting more into baking or someone that really needs to do exact measuring, there is no substitute for a kitchen scale. I'm linking below a version that I actually like better than the one I'm showing you in the video. The one I'm showing you is perhaps a little bit more attractive. Both of them are comparable prices. They measure in 4 different units of measurement. They have a tare function. They have a backlit display screen. So they work very similarly, but I would slightly prefer the one that I'm linking down below. And finally, in the tiny appliance category is an appliance that I like because it doesn't take up much room. It's this tiny little food processor. So this one has 2 functions, chop and puree. It's not super sophisticated, but what makes it special is that it has this little reservoir for oil that it meters or drips oil into a sauce when you need to make an emulsion. So if you're making something like chimichurri, salad dressing, mayonnaise, aioli, anything that requires a slow and steady drip to become emulsified, this is a great option. You can also use it for chopping nuts, for pureeing sauces, for chopping veg, and it holds more than you might expect it to hold. It's a little bit bigger than it looks, but again, doesn't take up much space, inexpensive, great multi-purpose tool, and it rounds out my tiny appliance category. Just 3 left. The next category is baking. So for any burgeoning bakers in your life, run through them really quickly. First is this cake turntable that makes decorating cakes a breeze. This silpat is a non-stick silicone mat that is not only good for baking, but for all sorts of other uses as well. That it does a great job of replacing the single-use parchment paper. And while they're not 1-for-1 replaceable, this might be an option for the green-conscious chef in your life. Third is this cake mover, which is basically just a giant spatula, but when you're using a turntable and decorating big cakes, you gotta have a way to move them without touching the sides of them. While you can use a couple of spatulas, this cake mover is inexpensive and will make your life significantly easier. So the last thing in this category is an offset spatula set. And I'm actually not showing you mine because it is in an undetermined location at the moment. I might find myself purchasing this set for myself if I can't find my tiny little offset spatula. This makes cake decorating so much easier. And while a flat spatula is helpful, an offset spatula can get you into many more nooks and crannies crannies, many more little places for those tiny little details on your cakes, and it's just overall a more useful tool. 2 more categories to go, and the second to last one is cookbooks. Cookbooks are highly personal. Some people read them like novels, like me. Some people don't use them at all. But I have 3 recommendations for cookbooks for you today. One for the baker, one for the all-around chef, and one for the food scientist. Plus, if you have a scholar in your life and a budget a little bit bigger than our $40, this professional chef cookbook is excellent. And it's used, in fact, as a reference in many cooking schools, as I understand. So the professional chef, great front to back read, talks about ingredients, measurements, techniques. Really, for the scholar in your life, it is absolutely the winning cookbook. The other 3 that I'm showing you here, starting with Dessert Person, is a great and beautiful cookbook by Claire Saffitz, the lovable former Bon Appetit YouTuber. She not only walks through method in depth, but also there's some really great flavors and beautiful pictures in this cookbook. Still so much of it left for me to cook, but I've cooked a few things and everything I've enjoyed. Second is my OG cookbook that I've had for probably 30 years. It's The Joy of Cooking, first published in the 1930s. This one never goes out of style, and although it's being redone year over year and the versions you're getting now are updated, it is absolutely my #1 reference for cooking. I'd recommend it to anyone who likes to cook. Third, for the scientist in your life, this is Kenji Lopez Alt's cookbook. I love this one because it explains the science behind why we cook things the way we do. So for example, there's a section on cooking steaks and what the best way is to cook steaks, or cooking eggs. Great recipes in this cookbook, all of which are savory. I don't believe there's a dessert in the entire book. But if you're curious about the why we do things the way we do in a kitchen, this is the cookbook for you. And if you stuck with me this long, thank you so much. And we're finally to my very favorite category. If you've been around my channel for a little bit, you know that I love to not only cook in my home kitchen, but I also love to cook in the woods over open flame. And I found that there are a few really necessary tools for me in those cooking endeavors that make cooking a lot easier. The first absolutely is cast iron. And I don't only use cast iron in my outdoor kitchen, I absolutely use it in my home kitchen all the time as well. I'm showing you a 12-inch skillet, and this is also a 12-inch skillet. The beauty of these is that this skillet comes with a little silicone pot holder so that if your skillet is really hot, you can grab the handle and not burn the heck out of your hand. Another great tip for cast iron actually is if you're someone with access to a thrift store and maybe a little bit of a smaller budget, go into your local thrift store and look for cast iron. If you're willing to put in a little bit of elbow grease, you can really bring even the rustiest cast iron back from the dead. And what a cool gift to give someone that's both something that's secondhand that you purchased that probably has some interesting history, but also something that you had to put some work into to get ready for them. I think cast iron is my favorite kitchen tool of all time, though I've said that a couple times during this video. But get the cook in your life some cast iron. Under 30 bucks can get you into some great cast iron that will truly last them forever. Next, hand in hand, no pun intended, with cast iron is a nice pair of heat-proof gloves, and I'm linking a pair similar to the ones that I use frequently in the description box below. Almost imperative if you're cooking outside over open flame in particular. Things get hot that you would not expect to get hot, and I've burned my hands more than once. Really recommend that even if you're buying someone a cast iron, I'd recommend getting them a pair of heat-proof gloves as well. Just makes your cooking experience outside a lot safer and a lot more enjoyable. And then the final thing that is an absolute wild card in this video that'll run you definitely more than our $40 budget, that is so useful for any outdoor cook, especially one who cooks over wood, is a hatchet. This Helko werk hatchet is my favorite tiny little hatchet, and it actually is nicknamed Pomp and Circumstance because it packs such a big punch. Stays sharp, feels great in my hand, pretty easy to use, and for someone who cooks all the time outdoors, especially with wood, makes a ton of kindling, this is a great outdoor kitchen tool. That's it. If you made it to the end, from my sidekick and me, a genuine thank you. I hope you enjoyed these gifts and they get your brain going for the cook or home cook in your life. And happy holidays from my family to yours. Cheers. Okay, Betty.